Girls and boys, good morning and welcome to your math lesson. Today we are starting chapter 11, which is the last chapter that we'll be doing from the book. Uh, Chapter 12 was shapes, which we just finished. This one's going to take a little while and it's going to be a little tricky because we're not in class using the objects that I wanted us to use, including a ruler. So we're going to have to be very, very careful and follow my directions to be sure that we're doing things properly and we're getting the right information. So our essential question is, how can I measure objects? Now, there are many ways of doing it. We use rulers for certain things. We use yardsticks or meter sticks like we did in our ramps and friction experiment way back in the beginning of the year when we wanted to see how far the cars went. We used those really long sticks, which were basically giant rulers. We even used tape measures. So for this lesson, we're going to be using a ruler, and I have something important to tell you about that. Most of us have probably left our rulers at school. In fact, I'm thinking everybody did. That's okay. You might have a ruler at home. If you don't have a ruler, maybe you have a tape measure. If you don't have a tape measure, maybe you can print this out. Now, this will let you make a ruler. You'll take this part here, cut it out, and tape it on to this part here. Okay, and that'll give you a ruler that's 12 inches long. That's going to be more than enough for what we're doing for a little while. Okay, so just make sure mom or dad help you, and if you're printing something out, have them check to make sure that that's really an inch. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so here's a ruler. Now, of course, what you see on your screen might be smaller. If you're watching this on a tablet or on a phone, then it's going to look very small. But most rulers that we use these days have two sets of numbers. On the one side, we have centimeters, and you can see those numbers are closer together. And on the other side, we have inches. Now, we've actually used both of them this year in science when we had to measure things. For now, though, we're not going to worry about centimeters. They are going to come up later. Now we're going to look just at inches. And if you don't have a ruler or a tape measure, and if you can't print out the ruler that I showed you just a moment ago, I'm going to show you a trick. First, this is what a centimeter looks like from 0 to 1, and that's very important. You have to start at 0. And that's what 2 centimeters looks like. Okay, now let me show you an inch. An inch also goes from 0 to 1. Another inch would go from 1 to 2. Well, if you don't have any of the tools that I've mentioned, why don't you ask mom or dad if you can use a quarter? A quarter, which we talked about in March and we had our test on, a quarter is almost exactly an inch. And for what we're going to be doing, if you're not totally exact, it's okay. 1/4 will equal 1 inch for now. Okay, so if you measure something that's 2 inches, that'll be 2/4. Okay, so you can print out a ruler and make one. You can use a tape measure. If you have something that mom or dad can tell you is an inch, you can use that. Or you can use a quarter. If we had been in the classroom, we would have used little blocks that I have that are exactly 1 inch and 1 centimeter. And of course, we would have had our rulers. And again, don't worry about the centimeters right now. We'll deal with that later. Let's move on. Now, it's super important when you measure something to line it up properly. So here we've got a box of crayons and I've got my ruler, and you'll notice now that I flipped it over. So this is the inch side. Okay, you can tell because the numbers are further apart. On the right side, we have the centimeters. Okay, so if I asked you about this box of crayons, if I asked you to measure it, well, you would look at the bottom, look where that 0 is, and make sure you line it up just right. Okay, and you're just going to follow it all the way to the edge and see how long it is. Now, in this case, it's not exactly 4 inches, but it's pretty close. So we would say that this box of crayons is about 4 inches tall. Okay, so just remember to line it up on the 0 for now. Okay, hopefully if you have all your tools, you're ready. Let's get into our lesson. Okay, now we're looking at the book, and sometimes when you print something out at home, the pages are not exactly the same size as your book pages. Now that's important because it might mess up our measurements. So it's really important to follow along with what I'm doing here. We have 4 objects on this page. That brown thing in the top right is a golf tee. Okay, this is what we would put a golf ball on. And then, of course, we have a marker, a crayon, and that thing all the way down at the bottom, that black disc, is called a hockey puck. Okay, well, what we're going to do is try and figure out how long these objects are. And remember, I'm going to use a quarter as my guide. Well, let's look at that golf tee. How long do you think that is? And even if you have a golf tee at home, you don't need to get it. Just see if you can look at it and look at the ruler or the quarters that I have on the screen. Probably how long would you say it is? When I ask that kind of question, probably how long do you think it is? What I'm asking you to do is estimate. You don't have to tell us exactly how long it is. How many inches do you think it is? All right. Well, I'm guessing, I'm estimating that this is about 2 inches long. Okay, I think I could probably put 2 quarters there. Now let's look at the marker. How long would you say that is? Estimating is kind of tricky if you haven't done a lot of measurement, but we might say that this is, how about 7 inches? Okay, it might be 8. I'm just going to put a 7 there. That's my estimate. Now, how about the crayon? What do you think? Yeah, maybe almost 4 inches. I'm going to say about 4 inches. Now, the hockey puck, that's a difficult one because many of you have probably never held a hockey puck before. But how many inches would you say that is? Or how many of the quarters on the screen do you think that is? Yeah, I think it's probably about 3. Okay, let's move on. So now let's read together at the top. 1 inch is about the length of one color tile. Now, we don't have color tiles, so I'm going to cross that out. And we're going to say 1/4. Okay, you can use what you know about inches to estimate the length of an object. Then use an inch ruler to measure the length. Well, let's see this helpful hint here. Let's see what it says. Estimate. The length is about 3 inches. So, what they're saying is there's a glue stick here. And if you think about the glue stick that we had at school, or if you've got one at home, or if you just look at the ruler here, the paper ruler under the glue stick, yeah, that looks like it's about 3 inches. Now, when we use the ruler, that part is called measuring. When we don't use the ruler, that part is called estimating. Well, it says here the glue stick is 3 inches long. Now, for the next part, I had to get a little creative and think about things that we all might have at home. The book has some things that are maybe not easy to find at home. So if you've printed out the book pages, ignore the pictures that are in the book and make sure you're going by what I have here. Now, underneath this picture of the girl, it says, find the object, estimate the length, measure each object in inches. So for number 1, I have a disc. Now that could be a compact disc or a DVD or a Blu-ray DVD or something like that, some kind of disc. Now, don't use your ruler, don't use any quarters, and be very, very careful because these things, once they get scratched, they can't be used again. So, look at that disc. How many quarters do you think you could put across it? From one end to the other, right across the middle. Or how many inches do you think it might be? This is the part where we estimate. So we're just using our eyeballs here. And I'm going to say it's about 5 inches. That's just my feeling. Now, see if you can measure it. Okay, and it doesn't have to be exact. If it's closer to 4, say 4. If it's closer to 5 or 6, say that. We just need one number on that line. So what I want you to do is measure the disc and then go to number 2. Find a stick of butter. That's what that is. I figured most people probably have butter in their refrigerator. Find a stick of butter, a whole one if you have it, okay, and try and estimate how long it is, and then check your estimate and actually measure it and see what you come up with. And then at the bottom, how do you use a ruler to measure inches? Well, what do we say we do? We line one edge up with the 0. Okay, that's important. We want to be sure we're starting at the edge of the ruler, right where that 0 line is. Okay, let's move on. Now it says here, find the object, estimate the length, measure each object in inches. Now you'll notice all of these things are probably pretty small. We could probably cover all of them with a ruler. I don't think anybody has a shoe that's bigger than 12 inches. So find a shoe. For number 4, find a pair of scissors. For number 5, a paintbrush. For number 6, a piece of paper, but look how it's pictured here. We want to measure it long ways. So we want to measure the long side. And for number 7, I've put in a dollar bill. And we want to measure it again. Let's go for long ways. We want to measure it we want to measure this side. Okay? And remember, you're estimating first and then you're measuring. Okay? And it's possible you will get something different than one of your classmates. That's okay, because maybe you have a different pair of scissors. I'm sure most of us have different shoe sizes. So do your best here. Let's move on. Okay, and finally, the word problems. Let's look at number 8. Kaya's surfboard must be at least 15 inches longer than 48 inches. Whoa. Okay, I think I better underline that. Her surfboard must be at least 15 inches longer than 48 inches. Should Kaya choose a surfboard that is 55 inches long or 65 inches long? Whoa. Well, this is the kind of problem that's actually not going to require a ruler. Let's think about it. Her surfboard must be at least 15 inches longer than 48 inches. How can we figure this out? Pause it and think about it. Okay, well, hopefully you've thought about it. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the number 48 and we're going to add 15. And then once you get that answer, see if you can answer the question. Should Kaya choose a surfboard that is 55 inches long or 65 inches long? Let's see what you come up with. And of course, I'll release the answers later. Let's go on to number 9 when you're ready. Owen's foot is 6 inches long. His dad's foot is 6 inches longer than Owen's foot. How long is his dad's foot? Some important information here. Owen's foot is 6 inches long. His dad's foot is 6 inches longer than Owen's foot. How long is his dad's foot? Let's see if you can figure this one out. Number 10. Oh, we've got a Brain Builders alert. Carter estimates his math book is 7 inches long. Now, this is important. Carter estimates, which means he hasn't measured it. He's just kind of looking at it and guessing. Estimates his math book is 7 inches long. Wyatt estimates it is 15 inches long. The book is 8 inches long. Whose estimate is closer? Okay, think about this. So one person said the book is 7 inches long. The other one said it's 15 inches long. The book is actually 8 inches long. Whose estimate is closer? Write down the answer and explain to someone why you think so. And then the last part, how are estimate and an actual measurement different? Okay, hopefully this was clear. Like I said, I know we have to be a little flexible because we don't have all of the tools that we need. Let's move on. So your homework is to complete pages 649 and 650. Okay, just do your best and make sure you know the difference between estimating and measuring. Okay, you should already know what length is. It's how long something is. And try to get a good idea of how big an inch is. Okay, all right, guys, have a great day. The end.